The government of Uganda, in the Agricultural Development Strategy and Investment Plan (DSIP), made development of the cassava value chain a top priority for the agricultural sector. Cassava is one of 10 strategic commodities identified by the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries for investment to spur industrialization and wealth creation. Uganda is also designated as the Eastern Africa Center of Excellence for Cassava in the multi-donor supported East African Agricultural Productivity Program. In Uganda, cassava has for a long time been traditionally perceived as a subsistence or food security reserve crop. In major production areas in the country, however, it contributes about 40% of household income and around 40% of production is consumed at household level. It is only in recent years that cassava has been seen as an important commercial agricultural commodity with the potential to contribute to economic growth in the agricultural sector and beyond, to create jobs and generate income. Enhancing agricultural productivity is one of the most effective ways to alleviate rural poverty. This has been demonstrated by China's agricultural transformation since the 1980s. China has lifted hundreds of millions of its rural people out of poverty. Technologies and innovations to boost agriculture, allied with supportive policies and investment, have enhanced food security and increased rural incomes. The Agricultural Technology Transfer AgriTT Uganda Pilot Development Project Cassava Value Chain Development was an innovative trilateral initiative through which the Government of the Republic of Uganda, Department for International Development, United Kingdom, and the Government of the People's Republic of China jointly supported the development of cassava production, productivity, and value addition in the districts of Hoima, Masindi, Bulisa, and Chiriandongo as a means to improve incomes and food security among poorer smallholder farmers.
In various forum meetings, when Uganda was asked, yes, what are your priority commodities, put them on the table. And in the discussion, which was conducted at the ministerial level, the minister came out clearly to say, my priority commodity, which I want an intervention on, is cassava. And DFID, this is the British Overseas Development Agency, was on the table, and the Chinese were on the table. We all agreed, yes, instead of focusing on any other commodity, this time around, let's take cassava. And that's how the project was born.
The AgriTT program facilitated the sharing of successful experiences in agricultural development, especially from China, with developing countries in order to improve agricultural productivity and the food security of rural people. The 3-year pilot project commenced in May 2013 with 3 objectives. Create a production base with Chinese technical assistance demonstrating best agronomic practices and the establishment of a seed system. Pilot processing cassava to produce high-quality cassava chips and high-quality cassava flour. And to develop cassava-based food products for the domestic and regional markets using Chinese expertise. To deliver the objectives, the AgriTT Cassava Value Chain Development Project worked through a number of local implementing partners: Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Africa Innovations Institute, AFRI, and Makerere University, Department of Food, Nutrition and Technology. The Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries was the lead and coordinating implementing partner. It was also responsible for management of Chinese technical assistance and provided policy guidance on cassava production and value chain development.
The role of MAIF was to design the project because we want to see that we grow more cassava in this country. Right now, as I talk, cassava is the second major staple food crop in this country after bananas. Cassava has got a lot of values. Cassava can spur rural industrialization if we handle it well. And therefore, on this project, we try to demonstrate that.
AFRI conducted trainings for farmer groups in primary processing, business entrepreneurship, and linking them to markets. It also carried out market research with Chinese and UK experts and worked with factories to find markets.
When the AgriTT project was being conceived, they're looking at a value chain approach. And in the value chain approach, you look at production, processing, and of course, markets. And African Innovations Institute, we had a very strong role in the area of post-harvest handling and processing.
Makerere University Department of Food, Nutrition and Technology supported cassava-based food product development by selecting private sector investors on incubation, user facilities and training, as well as participating in the identification of equipment.
Our role has been product development so that we come up with the products with the potential for commercialization. The project was designed so that we adopt technologies from China and work with the Chinese experts and come up with products that would be commercialized. By doing that, we would be transforming the cassava subsector. We transform it from just producing cassava and selling it in fresh form, and we put it to the level whereby it becomes an industrial crop.
Output 1. Improve production and productivity of cassava seed and roots utilizing Chinese expertise. Before the AgriTT project, cassava production had been beset by problems of low productivity linked to poor agricultural practices and limited investment. One of the outputs of the project was to improve production and productivity of cassava seed and fresh root tubers utilizing Chinese expertise.
This project in Uganda have several parts. For us, me and my colleague from Qatar, we are doing the part from planting to harvesting. Also involve part of the post-harvest, like a dryer, like how to organize people to dry, make the clean cassava chips to the next stage.
In each of the 4 project districts, 10 farmers groups were selected to join the project, each group constituting an average of 25 farm families. The Chinese experts demonstrated mechanized cassava production in 8 additional sites in the 4 project districts and trained an additional 298 farmer representatives and 31 district and sub-county staff on mechanized cassava production and general agronomy, including planting, weeding, pest and disease management, and harvesting.
It has been a very good experience to me. Actually, not to me, but to the whole family and even the villagers around. Because before this, we have been growing cassava locally, and it has been quite tedious. But looking at what this technology has brought, it has simplified work. You've seen the number of acres here. I told you there are 8. If it was done locally, it would take us more than 2-3 weeks to finish. Plowing, planting, weeding, it would take more than 3 weeks. But these 8 acres were done in 3 days.
40 mother gardens, each averaging 5 hectares, were established in the 10 farmers groups across the 4 districts to propagate and supply adequate planting materials of recommended disease-free cassava variety with technical assistance from the Chinese experts. The mother gardens were provided with free cuttings by the project and later contracted to supply the planting material to other farmers in the farmer group when the cuttings reached maturity. The mother gardens have also sold excess planting materials to farmers outside their farmer groups and beyond.
I have benefited from AgriTT. 1, I have now seed, planting materials for cassava. I have the knowledge on how to grow it. And I have an aspiration that I can get market for my produce.
This led to increased yields per hectare from an average of 10 to 15 tons to 35 tons per hectare.
Now the cassava technologies that were introduced were so good, and we are realizing that the yields have generally started tremendously to improve. As people adopt, the yields are improving. So that means the productivity is getting better and better.
Our life of living has improved greatly. We now eat good food. You can see the dressing around here. You can see people are healthy. These young people are studying in better schools now as compared to that time before the other people came.
Output 2. Farmer groups improve harvesting, post-harvest handling, and primary processing of fresh cassava. Cassava deteriorates rapidly once harvested. This means that speedy and effective processing is essential. However, processing in many areas had been rudimentary with low-quality outputs. There was very little investment in mechanization of basic processing or in processing plants for production of high-quality flour, chips, or starch. Before the AgriTT project, there were no integrated processing units that take fresh roots as an input and produce high-quality cassava flour. This means that all cassava had to go through processes of peeling, grating, or slicing and washing and sun-drying that are largely manual, and even with careful management, the quality of the end product can be variable due to deterioration and contamination. The project interventions targeted farmer groups with the expectation to improve harvesting, post-harvest handling, and primary processing of fresh cassava.
In the western region where the project is being implemented, that's Western Uganda, cassava at that time was mainly seen as a food crop. And the first thing that AFRI had to do was try to change the attitude of the targeted farmer groups in this region to see cassava as a crop that could potentially bring income and not only rely on maize, because in that area maize was the main cash crop. So we had to go through a number of trainings, mentorship programs with the farmer groups so that eventually they could see that we can actually invest in cassava and make money.
We played a strong role in assessing the farmer groups that were benefiting from the project in each district, and we went ahead and tried to strengthen them in terms of governance and business, like, because we wanted them to think like businesses, farmer groups but oriented towards business. We also went ahead to assess their needs, okay? And one of the obvious needs that these groups had was issues of how to add value to their cassava and then where to sell the products they were getting.
Because we have been having a challenge of poor products and using poor technology in the processing. So the relationship is that they have been giving us the knowledge, the expertise, training us in such a way that we can produce high quality products.
The second component of the project demonstrated a new model for non-weather dependent quick processing of cassava using an integrated processing plant that takes fresh roots as an input and mechanically produces high-quality cassava flour. This model has the potential of being replicated by investors by producing high-quality cassava flour, a key input for further value addition.
In order to get high-quality cassava chips, you have to dry very fast and dry them when they're clean. It was to bring in artificial dryer. So we brought in a batch dryer from China. We've just been offloading it. It's going to be installed here in Kiriandongo. It should be operational within the next 5 or 7 days. It will be operational.
25 farmer group leaders, SMEs, and district officials were mentored in business plan development, and 2 SMEs, Farm Uganda and Zardi, were selected to co-invest in cassava processing using batch dryer technology.
What inspired us to acquire the batch dryer was more especially about quality. We've been having big challenges of cassava because cassava we've been using sun drying system, and the cassava has got high moisture content. After peeling it, within a very short time, it develops aflatoxins. It changes color. So it has been a very big challenge. During rainy seasons, we could not supply because we've been depending on sunshine. So we felt the batch dryer will be the biggest solution to our challenges.
Output 3. Cassava product market is developed and promoted. Prior to the project, there have been very limited attempts to add value to cassava through development of cassava-based food products or the use of cassava as an input in industrial products and processes. 4 new cassava-based food products were developed and promoted to the market. That is high-energy cassava biscuits, cassava pops, cassava snackies, and cassava flakes. And of these, high-energy cassava biscuits and cassava flakes have been taken on by entrepreneurs for commercialization.
We are based here at the Food Technology and Business Incubation Center, which has nurtured this product until the time when we have taken it to the market. What we know is that biscuits are normally made out of wheat flour. But now what we've done is that we have substituted the wheat flour to the level of about 60%. So now we are producing biscuits that contain cassava flour up to 60% content.
A number of technical staff exchange visits between China and Uganda were organized to promote new technology uptake in Uganda cassava production and processing. One Chinese expert, Dr. Lu Haikin from Guangxi University, was in Uganda from May to October 2015 to assist in developing and improving the quality of the 2 selected cassava-based food products, high-energy biscuits and cassava flakes. Another Chinese expert, Dr. Jie Kaifeng, was in Uganda from October to December 2016 to assist in installation and test running of 2 cassava processing lines, biscuit and extrusion, which were later commissioned at the Makerere University pilot plant.
Firstly, I provide technical support on the use of cassava in production biscuits and extrusion snacks. Secondly, I work with the engineers of different companies from China and to ensure the product lines. You know, it's the biscuit lines and the extrusion snacks production lines to work optimal operations. Thirdly, I provide technical training service for the staff of Makerere University and let them know how to write the 2 product lines. And then, after we go back to China, they can launch the production lines by themselves.
2 Makerere University staff and 3 Ugandan entrepreneurs went on a week-long value addition study tour to China in January 2016. During the study tour, the team explored various cassava value addition technologies in China and networked with academia at the University of Guangxi, staff in the Ministry of Agriculture, China, and technology developers and producers.
In China, I may say they are much more advanced than us in terms of value addition, and particularly in dealing with such technology. So instead of wasting time reinventing the wheel, conducting research into also generating our own technologies, we thought it was very important to go to China, adopt the technology, work with the Chinese experts, improve or adapt the Chinese technologies to the Ugandan situation.
When we went to China, because we are the benefits of the project, they promised us machinery that will make cassava pops, and these are the products that we make out of cassava. We can also flavor these products in different flavors, and soon they will be on the market.
China has seen rapid development in cassava production and the cassava value chain. It produces significantly more cassava than Uganda from a similar cultivated area. Chinese companies have organized farmers into effective production systems, supplying technical services and finance, with links to processing factories. Cassava in China is used as an industrial product and also in a range of different food products. The key difference between the cassava value chains in China and Uganda is that the Chinese production is almost entirely for industrial uses, whereas in Uganda, it is almost all for household-level human consumption, mainly grown as a food security crop, with the 20% or so that is traded being sold as dried, partially fermented flour for human consumption. The Chinese experiences, from production to processing and value addition, are highly relevant to Uganda as it seeks to develop its cassava value chain. The project facilitated the exchange of technical expertise, technologies, and models from China on production, processing, and product development through technical assistance to production and processing, including introduction of mechanization technologies, and through study tours for potential Ugandan investors in the cassava sector, as well as through technical support for cassava-based food product development with a specific objective of more rapidly achieving the targets.
Cassava has huge potential to transform the world. And I urge the world not to look at cassava as a poor man's crop. They should look at cassava as a tool for transforming developing countries, actually even the world over, because of its unique characteristics. For us to realize the potential of cassava, all the technologies are there to transform cassava into a wonderful industrial commodity. But all we need is everyone's support. Whether you're a farmer, whether you're a policymaker, you're a politician, you're a donor, you're what, we need your support to make cassava realize its potential.
We will still have some funding support coming to the cassava sector, both from World Bank and also from the ministry sources, and also from those private entrepreneurs that will have come up to want to grow this sector. We will still continue, even if the pilot phase has ended.